What's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Tuesday Nights Live. My name is Jay. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Please do leave a like and click share, click copy, grab that YouTube link. Got a great show. Please do feel welcome. Drivers, carriers, brokers, dispatchers. Actually, saw a lot of people open the email this morning, which is really cool and very welcome. Please do jump in the live chat and say hello. And we're going to do this. We're going to jump into This Is Tonight's Show 313 OEM Car Haulers Part 2. And I'm going to be moving a little bit faster from now on. We're going to go right into the news here. What I've got is top 5 headlines as I've outlined them in the last week. Trade shows. There's 2 trade shows right now. UAW Strike update, dealers hauling OEM cars, top 5 load boards and AI, and social media business development. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. OEM Car Haulers Part 2. We had a show a couple months ago. We had OEM Car Haulers here with us. They are back to talk about hauling for OEMs, and this is asset-heavy car hauling. Last week's show, tracking car haulers and GPS and technologies, a controversial topic for sure. There was a lot to that. So if you haven't unpacked that show, go check it out. Also, we've got Dispatching Live this Thursday. Why you may not want to start your own brokerage just yet if you're getting in as an owner-operator. Something to think about. Thursday show is going to be really interesting, so please do join us for that. Friday, we're going to be live at Talladega Speedway with Jason of Run Buggy. This is the neutral zone. This is where you'll find all aspects of automotive as it touches transportation and logistics, and not any overly favorable coverage here maybe at times, but what comes around goes around, because we're following the disconnect between sales and operations, and we're going to be moving quickly from now on. Investing in American jobs, and that's why you've got a scanner. That's pretty interesting. Somebody sent that in. Thank you so much for sending that in. Remember, we're delivering auto logistics news. And so at the top of that, okay, trade shows. Important to note, NAAA trade show happening right now. And Jay, what does it matter? Why does that affect me? Look at the sponsors. You're going to recognize some of those companies. And so what have they gathered to talk about? What are they sponsoring? Am I missing something? Should I be there? Do I know some of those exhibitors? I'm asking those questions because this is a question you do want to be asking yourself. When the trade show is happening, whether you're there or not there, what are you doing? How is it affecting your business? And how about another one? ASOTUCon. I'm going to try that again. ASOTUCon 2023. What is it? It's in Baltimore. What are they doing? They're talking to dealers and marketing executives and general sales managers. You want to haul for a dealership? Might be a great place to talk with. This is just a sampling of speakers at ASOTUCon. Again, that's happening right now. I think it started yesterday, and what are the dates on that? ASOTUCon. Oh, okay. So they had their second big day today. They got one more day tomorrow, and then NAAA has their first big day today, and then 2 more days coming up. And you see this on social media. We're going to talk more about social media in a second. UAW strike. What does it mean to you? How does this affect your business? It's becoming a bigger deal. Oh, President Biden visited the UAW picket line at GM operations for his historic U.S. presidential debut. President Joe Biden, I know, on Tuesday became the first sitting president in modern history to join a picket line. Biden, who has billed himself as the most pro-union president ever, spoke to workers via a megaphone, saying the automakers have been doing incredibly well and that you should be doing incredibly well too. And what's interesting here, and this is why I made a post about narrative and agenda and news on Friday, is that, see, if you're in the workforce and you're in the labor force and you feel like you're being underpaid, you might be able to sympathize and see, what they're pointing out. We're going to go into some statistics here in a second. Biden said you deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than what you're getting paid now. UAW President Shawn Fain said, this industry is of our making. When we withhold our labor, we can unmake it. Does that sound familiar, anybody? Stellantis in a statement said it already matched Biden's call for a record contract. Stellantis, 21.4% compound wage increase, $1 billion in retirement, inflation protection measures, job security. Now, is it the 40 that was originally asked for? No. Is it reasonable? Stellantis says it's a balanced agreement that fairly rewards the workforce for their contribution to success without significantly disadvantaging Stellantis against non-union competitors, which always comes up in conversation when you start to talk about the big picture. Shawn Fain says the CEO pay has gone up 40%, inflation's gone up 20%, new car price up 34%, but auto workers' wages up 6%, and that's not keeping up with the cost of living. And so that would be, one of the main points. Other than CEOs getting too much, somewhere in the middle is the news, but it's lingering, as we know. All right, let's move on. I pointed this out 2 shows in a row, and I'm pointing it out again because I think it's applicable tonight. Are dealers picking up cars from the factory for GM and getting paid directly, so then they don't even need car haulers? And how does that affect OEM car haulers? So I want to ask that question tonight. It's going to be in the roundtable discussion coming up. Also, I say pay attention to any disruption news that might affect you. Digital auction startups disrupt wholesalers, not auctions. That's interesting. How about vehicle damage detection getting smarter with AI? How is AI affecting you? You know it is. Are you paying attention to it? Or are you just getting upset about it? Right? Because I'm seeing both of those. How about, I saw this today. Former Tesla exec launches a wholesale marketplace for used EVs. The pivots are going to continue. This is why I'm so bent on following the news. It is constant. It is changing. My top 5 car hauling load boards that was from 5 years ago? I think it looks about the same, but how does yours look? And do you use 5? Do you use 3? Are you still just looking at 1? When you go to Central Dispatch, have you seen the volume from all to all? Do you watch as it changes, and does it matter when it changes? Or when you start your day, are you starting with a clean slate every day, or are you paying attention to the brokers posting loads in your areas, in your running lanes? What kind of vehicles are they? Do you know why that vehicle's moving? Is that part of your strategy, or are you just starting fresh every day? Something to think about. And are you creating load alerts? We've talked a lot about, again, gets into AI and technology for you, to help you. We know that, as we talked about on tracking car haulers, maybe there's too many mobile apps. And in fact, I had the thought, what if when you booked a load, what if it started to tell you the mobile app you would need in the information? That'd be very interesting. But do those load alerts help you? I really do want to know. Actually, I think everybody wants to know, are you using load alerts, and how many are you using? We constantly see information shared about operations and focusing on usage of the technology, and then the users, the shippers, how much they're using the technology. I talked about social media. Social media is a great way to continue your own business development and pay attention to what other companies are doing and why they're doing. Why is Run Buggy at the NAAA, right? Why are so many companies at the NAAA right now? Because it's a great way to do business, to network, to get in front, again, of companies you want to do business with. So if you're at the trade show, you know that. If you're not at the trade show, you don't see it, but maybe you wonder what's happening at the trade show. And by the way, if you have great social media like a blog, or maybe you have some videos, or you're sharing information, this is a great way to remind companies that you want to do business with, what kind of company you run, what you're focused on, and that you're really paying attention. At ATI, we don't ship cars, we move information. Leverage ATI in your business. You can send in comments, autotransportintel@gmail.com. Remember, you can get the podcast. This way you can save time. Do you see me trying to help you save time? I am literally taking what was otherwise 50 minutes of show and packing it into 10. I'm tired of it too. If you miss the show, then it goes quick. But I want to point this out. I was looking at the email. Man, a lot of people opened today's email, which I think says something about there is high interest in the car hauling industry. A lot of people too. This is really cool. There was a lot of clicks on just the ads inside today's email. There is great interest in what's happening in car hauling, and what I found really interesting is over 80% of the opens of today's email, those folks did not work in auto transport. They worked at companies that produce technology. They worked at as brokers. That's asset light carriers. They worked in other technologies, like you see the condition report technologies, other types of businesses, many other service businesses, or drive away. But it's amazing. People are highly interested in what's happening in auto transport. I wanted to share that with you. So before we move into the panel, just to remind you, if you are feeling a little queasy from so much information so fast that doesn't seem overly partisan, it is the dispatching live effect, and we're glad you're here with ATI. So it's already the end of the break. That's right. In 10 minutes, I did the news. So do me a favor, stick around, because right after this, we're going to bring in Joe. He is our feature segment here tonight on OEM Car Haulers Part 2. So stick around, because we'll be right back.
Transport Auto Quoter is by far the leading auto quoting software on the market, and the only auto quoter with a pro version that comes preset with accurate pricing for anywhere in the U.S. So you don't have to worry about it. The best part is that no change with your current software is needed. Just plug TAQ in and start booking jobs. Carriers can easily plug TAQ into their current websites and start making money right away. I bet you're wondering how we do this instantly and accurately 24/7. Well, constant analytics is the key. Our Price Watch team is constantly monitoring current market conditions, paying close attention to seasonal and quick-moving industry changes. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and data to maintain good pricing, time that most of us just don't have on a daily basis. So free yourself up. Using TAQ Pro is really a no-brainer. Save time and money, maximizing your leads and optimizing your online investments. You'll finally be able to sleep well at night knowing that TAQ is on the job selling for you 24/7. Never missing a potential job.
Auto Hauler Exchange is a new B2B marketplace, the first of its kind in the vehicle logistics industry. Auto Hauler Exchange automates the complex workflows of the vehicle logistics ecosystem by connecting large and small vehicle haulers directly with vehicle shippers. By eliminating the middleman typically required in vehicle logistics, AHX streamlines the shipping process, cuts shipping delays, and reduces empty space on carriers and unnecessary miles while increasing revenue. Working directly with the shipper, carriers can pick and choose which opportunities fit their routing on a day-by-day basis to maximize their capacity and eliminate empty miles, while allowing them to plan their backhauls in advance. The exchange gives control back to carriers. By using technology, AHX creates a frictionless, efficient environment for vehicle transportation. Get off the vehicle hauler roller coaster today with Auto Hauler Exchange.
Auto Hauler Exchange B2B marketplace connects shippers directly with carriers, and that means putting the power of the business transaction back in the carrier's hands. Visit autohaulerexchange.com. Thank you so much for saying hello in the live chat. Really do appreciate it. Here we go. Let's bring in our featured guest tonight, Joe Bercari. He's a friend of the show. He was here last week. He's back for more. Midwestern Car Carriers. Joe, you see me and hear me okay?
Hear you great. Glutton for punishment.
Oh, yeah. It's true. It's true. All right. So jumping right in. Now we had OEM Car Haulers Part 1, where we talked a lot about, I think we spent a lot of time talking about professional drivers. So I think we covered that for the most part. Got a great YouTube short out of that too, which was pretty cool. Yep. So what I wanted to do was, if you were able to catch the news, I'm just going to summarize it again. Trade shows, UAW strike, dealers hauling their own cars, and social media and AI and load boards. It's a lot to unpack. I also know that you specialize in the primary market, as Tom
Yep.
likes to say it. But given those thoughts, kick us off. Where do we start?
All right. Well, I mean, I spent some time with family this weekend, and every single person that I spoke to asked me the same question: Are you being affected by the strike? And to be very honest, if you have any hand in new vehicle delivery, the answer has to be yes. It's always yes. There's no way it can be no. If you're at an affected place, then obviously the disruption is going to impact you in some fashion. If you are not in an affected place, the typical reaction of unaffected facilities is to go, turn the production line up to 11. They thunder out everything they possibly can and push as much volume out as they can. And try and get themselves in a situation so that way, if there was a disruption that would affect them directly, they have relative insulation. If they are not a UAW facility, then they're chasing market share. And so, whether you're there or you're not, if you're shipping new cars, are you affected by the strike? The answer is yes. It has to be. Are we affected by the strike? Absolutely. We're in places that are affected directly. We're in places that are not affected directly. The answer is yes. So what do those impacts mean? What does that get into? Well, I don't want to get too deep into that, but there's business reasons for that. But
Right.
What I would say is that the smart business people in this environment, they stay nimble. They stay, they keep their ear to the ground to see what is happening and how things are moving. And they make sure that if there are opportunities to be able to, to be a part of, then you jump on those opportunities. And if that means, directly with an OEM or directly with a carrier that who has a relationship with an OEM, all of those things are net plus. So, that's my generally vaguely political answer.
Fair. Okay. Vague. We accept that because, right, we all have. That's why I appreciate any time anybody's willing to go on any kind of limb on ATI to share information. It's hard because we have business to run and there's only so much we can do or say. But I do want to ask this. In the strike, it's the workers that are affected the most, right? Because they're not earning, they're not working. Could we say it's affecting drivers the most in car haul?
Well, someone I used to know and love used to say that there's a rule of 5. So for every person that has a particular job, whatever it is, wherever it is, there are 5 people who have some economic benefit of them that are tangentially related. So let's just say hypothetically, if you're a driver, the person who's affected is the person that sells you fuel, the person that fixes your truck, the person that sells you the coffee or donuts or whatever in the morning. Potentially the management people that are managing your business and dispatching your loads and things like that. The bank that is using, your income is part of their business plan. And then, it gets a little bit, it's like ripples on a lake, as it gets further and further out, you can still feel them, but they get less and less and less. But from the first person affected, there's generally the rule of 5 I found is generally pretty reliable. It might be 7. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows who the real number is? But the short answer is yeah.
Good point. That's a great way to point it out. Okay. All right. So the strike definitely yes. I mean, and I would have assumed that. And I'll tell you that. So from a news perspective, help me dissect the news. The news today was Biden, but yesterday I think it was more about more plants other than the main 3 being affected. Can you, in an objective way, sum up news information?
Yeah. What I can say, I mean, they're not breaking any new ground here, but the short version is that the union feels, the UAW feels satisfied with the negotiations that Ford has had thus far, to the point where they're not going to expand their operation or expand their stoppages, across broader operations for Ford. Why that is, what was the magic box that made that happen? I don't know, but that's behind
interesting.
closed doors.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so
But
Ford is it? Yeah, they're at a
Ford
moment.
is in Ford is on one level for
Yeah.
whatever reason. The union said, these guys crossed whatever threshold that we wanted them to cross, and so we believe they're serious about making a deal with us, and so we're going to continue the conversation. That doesn't mean that there won't be additional possible pressure somewhere down the line. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. That again, that's behind closed doors, but we're all spectators for that. The short version of the story there is that for whatever reason, Ford got singled out after last Friday. 12 o'clock was when they said they were going to make their next round of announcements. General Motors and Stellantis did not get singled out. Again, what box did they not tick? Don't know.
I thought Stellantis the information Stellantis shared was more specific and talked about 21 point something percent. Like it seemed like they were sharing that they thought they were making reasonable negotiations, but I think one of the headlines I read was that Sean Fain is really showing union strength, and so maybe in one of the ways, and again, I'm not trying to pin you down, but I'm sharing. I mean, this is monumental news, and so let's do this. Let's move on to dealers.
Well, no, hold on.
Okay, all right.
So let's say this, okay? One of the things that when you're in a negotiation between two parties, okay, and I'm speaking as a person who has done this before, company to company. Okay, so it's not really that much different when you go, management, labor, your strategies change, your tactics change, your leverage changes, but at the end of the day, the tactics are really not that different. Okay, so the UAW has a certain list of priorities. That list of priorities, if they were smart, and I'm going to guess they are, were outlined to the manufacturers at the very beginning. Said this is what we want. Here's what we need. Okay. And whatever that list of priorities, there are the gotta haves and there are the not gotta haves. Okay, within that list. Now the company's got the same thing going. They got the gotta haves. They got the not gotta haves. The company knows that they're going to be in for any number of things as a part of this negotiation. And then it could be, speaking generally, it could be increases to wages. It could be, more holidays. It could be any number of things. But the company sits there and says, I already know here's what I'm going to give. And here's what they got to have. How many am I going to give and how many of their got to haves are going to match? And how many of my going to gives can be substituted for a gotta have that doesn't align with a gotta give or gonna give, so that's the banter. That's the way this thing goes. All right. And again, speaking highly generally, this is any negotiation. This is kind of how this works. So it's not uncommon for these things to stretch out for a long, long time, because when party A says, here's my gotta have, and party B says, I cannot give you your gotta have, but here's something I'm going to give. Well, party A has to sit there and say, hold on a minute. Is the gotta give something that we want? And if it is, how much do we want it? If they're going to give it, what's that worth to us? And how does that change our gotta haves? Or how does that change our wanna haves? So that's kind of what, again, speaking broadly, I think that's really what's happening here. Is that the manufacturers they're all tossing here's this, and here's this, and here's this. I read the news like everybody. I look at what they say about, here's our latest offer, and here's our latest this, and blah blah blah. And I'm not going to say I don't pay attention to it, because I definitely look at it to see what the offer looks like. But if they're not close to a deal, what they are offering today and what the union likes today, or what the union is asking for today and what the company refuses today, don't matter. Because right now they're so early in the stages of tossing these proposals back and forth that it's probably going to be some time before both sides can digest, okay, this is what we came up with. Now, the complicating factor here is economic action will create pressure. And that pressure, it is going to cause one side or the other, often the company side, to start moving towards more dramatic decisions. How many of those dramatic decisions were already in the playbook, were already going to gives? I don't know. How many of those decisions are things that the union needs to go and get? I don't know. What I can say is that as of right now, for whatever reason, General Motors and Stellantis are in a different column than Ford is. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because Ford, just today, I think it was, might have been yesterday, said that there was still a lot of work to do and that they were still very far apart from an agreement. So yes, they dodged whatever, escalation, if you want to call it escalation, could have occurred, but there's still a long way to go. This is a very, very long discussion as I see it. This is going to take quite a while for the parties to put together. That's what I would say. And don't be surprised if just because Ford looks like they are, all thumbs up right now, don't be surprised for that to change. Because at some point in time, other manufacturers might sit there and throw, gonna gives out there that the UAW might sit there and say, that's a good one. We want that. That's something that's important to us. And now all of a sudden you see positioning change.
I gotta say, I smell another YouTube short within gonna haves and gotta gives. That was really, really well done. And by the way, you made me think of, did you see the Hollywood? I know this is different, but the Hollywood strike might be near an end. It would appear that maybe the gotta haves and gonna gives have found some kind of common ground. And so, really interesting stuff. Let's do this. Hold on.
Now that's a different.
Man, take it.
Wait a minute.
I love
Time out. You want to bring that up? So that's a different animal. Now that one, I could talk about the WGA and SAG-AFTRA and have absolutely no industrial impact to me whatsoever.
Right.
But that's a totally different
workers.
animal, in my opinion, and that's because with the sheer volume, today versus when was the last time they struck? It was like 80 something.
I can't keep track of that stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
86.
Probably.
Well, today, with the globalization of entertainment and with streaming services having like multi-country reach, production, and so on and so on and so on, I think that the power of
the Hollywood thing, I actually can talk about a little bit though. That in Hollywood, so let's do this just to go tangentially, because that word was used earlier, is writers, actors, and so on, the amount of production crew talent in Hollywood that is necessary to make these productions. I know it seems unnecessary, which again, I think is part of why, to somebody who works up in a salon or something, is thinking, well, UAW strike, I just want my new car. The thing is that when you look at the division of labor in the crews that make this work happen,
right,
therein lies the issue.
Massive difference.
Yeah.
Because the amount of capacity for incoming content, whether it is written content or the production thereof, that's outside of the arrangement of that union's scope, as opposed to what they are requesting. The studios could sit for another year and just continue to develop films from the UK and Turkey and France and whatever, and have voiceover actors in England change everything over to English or whatever it is.
Well, it's interesting. It's the AI, actually, that was one of the
or that.
points.
Or that. So you're dealing with two very, very, very. The point of this is not to, assert or demean one thing or the other. The point
Absolutely
of this is that you're dealing with an industry where content is continuing to flow through sources completely outside of the realm of call it traditional production in America, versus production that is.
You know what the common thread is? Skilled labor.
Well, sure.
Because when it comes down to what's it going to take to replace, it might sound simple, but even some of the suppliers that were in the news articles I read a week ago were talking about we're not ready to lose again the limited skilled workforce that we've just ramped up again after the pandemic.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
yeah. So all I'm saying here is that I don't find these two labor actions to be the same. I think their industries are dynamically different. I understand where each of them are coming from, and I have my own opinions on the veracity of each argument, of course. But I think that what's different about the Hollywood content or the Hollywood writers' strike or whatever. I hate to call it the Hollywood because it's really writers. Period.
Yeah.
They don't do Hollywood, but
yeah,
the Writers' Strike and the
fair.
Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA and all that. Yeah. What I find different is that there is so much continuing content that's available to the producers that it puts them in a very, very different position than the automotive manufacturing does, because the domestic OEMs depend upon this workforce and no other. There is no plan B. If there's a very, very, very big difference.
Sean Fain just wrote that down. Okay. There is no plan B, but no, that is really interesting. It's a great point.
Yeah, this strike is going to end at some point, and we all hope it does. And we all hope it ends favorably for all parties. This strike is going to end. And then what does it look like? Because when all those factories come rumbling back to work, and then the industry starts to come back alive. When the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, when their whole job action stops, in 48 hours, we're not going to suddenly have another Iron Man movie or something. That's not how that's going to work. But in our industry, in 48 hours, we're going to go from dead to smoked, in that much time. So, lot of differences.
Okay. All right, good. That's a good transitioning point. Do me a favor, hang on, because right after this, we're going to bring in the rest of the panel here on OEM Car Haulers Part 2. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The next evolution of moving cars faster, smarter, and easier is here. SuperPay by Super Dispatch. Today, shippers waste hours managing fragmented payment systems. And carriers are left wondering, never knowing when they'll finally get the payment they're owed. SuperPay saves everyone time and hassle by securely automating payment upon proof of delivery. No more tracking down payments or onboarding carriers to disconnected payment systems. With integrated payments with SuperPay, Super Dispatch is now the only end-to-end, all-in-one auto transport platform. Automate payments where you automate transport.
Super Dispatch, TMS, mobile app, Super Load Board, and SuperPay helping carriers, dispatchers, brokers, and shippers move cars and get paid fast on one auto transport platform. Visit superdispatch.com. I think that's the second time I said platform. That's okay. We're live. In fact, let's do this. Let's check in with our guests here. Please do help me wish a very warm welcome to the OEM Car Haulers Part 2 panel. Now, Tom, we can't see you yet. You might have a video button at the bottom. Shane,
we come on.
I know.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. And you know what? And that might be enough. It's all good. While everybody's still coming in, we got John in here first. John Larick, please do say hello.
Hello, everybody.
What's going on, John? Okay, good. We can see. Oh, there's Shane's camera. There's Tom's camera. Awesome.
Victory.
All right, there we go.
All right, perfect. Rod, we saw you next. Please say hello.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing?
Good. Good to see you. Shane, please say hello.
What's everybody?
Shane, awesome. Shane is with us. First time on ATI, Tuesday Nights Live.
Oh, but Jay, long time listener, first time caller.
Is it? It is. Long time listener,
Yeah.
first time caller.
So my first question is for Joe. Joe, when did you realize you were going to be a podcast sensation, and what do you think that's going to do for your future in car hauling?
I had no idea, and I have no idea, respectively.
right? I had no idea, and therefore I have no idea, and that is the question. Tom is with us. Tom, please say hello again.
Well, good evening.
This is
How
awesome.
you doing, Jay?
Doing
And
great. It's great to see you all, and
it's great to be here.
And thanks for coming back and taking the time. I had Joe going. I've introduced you guys. Now I can leave. The studio can run itself. But you heard Joe talking about contract negotiations. Anybody want to pick that up or talk about something else?
Well,
And we realize there is a vagueness. We're all good with vague because we don't want to. But I mean, there's got to be something to add.
well, I've got a question that I just want to throw out there. Do we foresee changing compensation expectations as a result of these negotiations? One of the main points that the UAW has thrown out there is they want to get paid 40 hours for a 32-hour work week. And, you know, I can't help but think in the old days when we were working for some of the unionized carriers and we were actually on the plant sites and so forth, you know, what happened at the plant sites would impact or it could change expectations. And I'm just curious as to the rest of the fellas that are on the panel, because they cover a wide range of places, what their thoughts might be. Fellas?
Who wants to start?
Feel free to jump right in. Really, that's the way we do it. You know, we're in the halls at a trade show, which is where you're going to be in a month. So, right?
True.
Okay, which I also want to mention tonight as well. But don't hold back. Jump right in, please.
I tell you, I don't see how that scenario can be sustained because of the added workforce to cover those hours.
I don't disagree. I'm just asking whether or not we think that the fellas, ladies and gentlemen that we have in our forces, are they going to start to have a different perception if that were to come about?
My thoughts to that is I don't think it's really going to have much effect because we talked about this in the last roundabout. How, for example, Walmart is offering $110,000 for the company drivers, and yet car haulers still want to switch over and get the same money, just pulling drive-ins, just because most of them take that as a different industry. It's just car haulers are different breeds, so they.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know if that answers your questions all the way, but they're just kind of similar. Hey, well, why didn't I just do less work for the same money?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the hours making much change.
Okay.
I mean, FMCSA has more to do than that. In our industry, has more to do with that than anything else. I don't think the notion of the work week changes for a person who's behind the wheel. Does that mean that the wages have to change? I think it's probably too early to tell. We saw a pretty substantial adjustment to the rate structures in the latter part of 2020 and early part of 2021. I think some of that was a reaction to the downward resistance of rates in the past. Whether or not that we see a sort of a second hump, I don't know. That depends. I think there's a lot more that goes into what that does than just simply what happens with the UAW, and a lot of us pay percentage of revenue, for example, and so I think that there are a lot of outside factors, financing and equipment pricing being pretty substantial ones, that I think are going to drive that before we get into direct wage adjustments and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
All right. I'm gonna start throwing out flags here, okay? Here's a flag. Dealers hauling their own cars.
It's always happened.
Really?
It's never hasn't.
So it's just a headline, but it's always happened?
Well, what's different today is the manufacturers are pushing it. They tried pushing it. They tried pushing it in 2020 and 2021 under the perception of a driver shortage. I don't have the data to suggest that it did anything substantial to the market. I doubt that it did, to be honest. I think that anything they're doing now is really just an attempt to try and get a surge of volume out of logistics facilities and onto a showroom floor where they can sell a car. I think it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, do you think it has anything to do with the dealers now? When you buy a car, you're actually ordering the car and they're not putting inventory on the lot?
Well, to some extent, John, it could. But, I mean, if you look at the general terms of service, and I kind of talked on this, I think it was last week, you know, I mean, our service time on a lot is generally 3, maybe 4 days. You know, in the scheme of things, against the time to produce, which is upwards of 6 months in some cases, the lag on rail, which, you know, who knows what that could be depending on how far it has to go and how many interchanges it has. Our piece of the equation is this much. You know, I don't know if that's really moving the needle. I think that it's not nothing, but is that what's really, you know, is that the lion's share? I'm kind of skeptical, to be honest.
To jump on that a little bit, following Joe's footstep, they've been coming to the yards and picking up cars for 20 years. And unless the dealers got a fortitude for this business, because once they come grab that thing in the yard and they take it and they're driving it and a rock chip goes through that window or whatever happens to damage that vehicle, that becomes on them. I don't think they have the fortitude for that liability. And unless they've got that car sold and they've got a good nut coming on the back side of it, I don't think they want to fool with the logistics of that vehicle anyway. I think it's something that's more being glamorized by the OEM than being driven by dealer need.
I agree.
I think they don't. I don't think they have the
Exactly.
staff. I don't think they have the staff.
No.
You
I
talk to
agree with
most
that, too.
dealerships, and they've struggled to keep people to be able to inspect cars when we show up, let alone to be able to come, you know, drive 350 miles to go pick it up at some origin plant. So
Exactly. I think you're exactly right. Both of you.
Correct. Between the staff and the liability, it's just too much for them to handle.
So why is it a headline? Just maybe it is from time to time?
well, no, I think that whoever it was that you called out threw an outrageous number, you know, to see what would happen, and you know, whether it did anything or didn't, I don't know.
It's like pink sauce being big on TikTok. Ask her how it's going now. Do you know anything about pink sauce?
No.
Is it like green drinks?
Well, you know, so a lady made a pink sauce, but she found out that, you can't ship a milk ingredient in the mail and it works out okay, and the FDA came down and somebody else wanted to buy it. Now, you know, she doesn't have a business, but it was the biggest deal for a while. So
Right.
Pink sauce.
Well, I can't speak to pink sauce, but I think that headline has, and I think that Joe touched on it, and you know, and Shane as well. But I think that headline is just to demonstrate to everybody just how far the manufacturers are willing to go to make sure those cars get to wherever they got to go. You know, and that they're, you know, asking the dealers to come get them if they can, blah, blah, blah. It's a little bit more about motion rather than achievement, in my opinion. So.
Very good. All right. Tom, you were talking about primary market. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
About what, the strike or anything? No, I don't have anything to say about that, but When it comes to the primary market right now, it's going to be disrupted, as Joe outlined. The ripple effect is going to come in, and it could get a little dicey if it goes on long. But right now, I think that one of the things that Joe and Shane alluded to, and we have to keep our eyes on, is the development in the rail side of the business. I do think that there is a significant opportunity in our industry for trucks to substitute as or to act as a rail alternative. Years and years ago, we used to have an 800-mile plus range out of the assembly plants, and that was constricted by the railroads. I think that there's an appetite maybe for that to flip. We can never be economically competitive, directly competitive on a per mile basis with the railroad, but there are other things that we can do that would help move the car and get it to destination more quickly and with less risk to the cargo itself. So I think that that's going to be an emerging trend here in the next year and a half, or it's going to continue to emerge for a number of reasons.
Tom, let me add on that and say, not that we can't be economically competitive from a total rate perspective. If you just compare the line rate for truckaway versus the line rate to rail, then yeah, there's a gap. But when you consider the number of touches, when you consider the amount of time involved in the transit, and especially if, and every single site has its own little challenges, because there could be one interchange for this one, 3 interchanges for that one, and so on and so forth, and that all of which can impact the transit time. Now, as the dealer floor plan, as interest rates rise, and as the dealer floor plan for these vehicles starts to increase, the inflection point for what you'll call the standard break even is going to start to change. Right. And I think, to your point, you're going to see that trucking gains an advantage, plus 50 or 100 or 125 or whatever number of average miles haul. I think you'll see some of that. However, I think the other thing is that the railroad, what we saw prior to, even kind of now, is that capacity is the biggest issue that they face, in that, the number of buy and tri-level racks that they simply have throughout the network at the origin points when they need them and where they need them is not enough. And so I think that, the manufacturers are going to have to make some difficult choices at that point of, whom do I want to, which piper do I want to pay?
Well, I think the railroads have indicated very clearly that they're not willing to invest in additional equipment at this point. And with the surge in electric vehicles on the way, or at least something that I wasn't aware of, is I did not realize that in some cases the electric vehicles are too heavy for them to put on the third deck on a tri-level. So that then changes the way the configuration of the equipment that they need to buy, and I think that that's impacting or slowing down their decision making.
Tom,
what do you buy for it?
I'd like to piggyback that what you said a little bit about the investment. They have no desire to invest in these pieces of equipment. How many freight planes have a boxcar of coal?
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, car haul has traditionally been like some very low single-digit percentage of the overall revenue of the railroads, and like 2 or 3%. I've heard it all over the years I've been in this, but the amount of capital investment that is required to cover 2 to 3% of your overall revenue, it just becomes an ROI question at some point, for them. So, are there more factors involved? Don't know. But Yeah, that's what I've seen over the years.
Well, it's like Shane says, you don't have a lot of damage when it comes to a boxcar of coal, and nobody scratches the grain, and they don't care.
It's interesting. I was gonna bring up rail, port, and terminal, and EV. Anything to add to EV? I know that I thought, and I don't have the article in front of me, but I thought I saw something about the auction talk about EVs were up 40%, or it's more a significant part of the sale, or that it's expected to be. But EVs are on their way up. We talked about EVs some. The weights, and this gets into, I wanted to talk about what about, extending the length and the weight of car hauling. Anything what I'm trying to get at and having difficulty doing is EV and car haul are important to a wholesale marketplace like the auction. Any information to add they may not be aware of?
Well, the weight, you hit on the weight thing, and if that's going to dovetail into our FMCSA discussion, I think we're good at length. I think 80 feet's about as long as we really need to be and safely move up and down the roads of the United States. Weight, though, at 80,000 pounds with these EVs coming in, we're getting heavy into EV here and there, trying to make some relationships with folks that may make it and may not make it. But your average weight coming out of Volvo for Polestar, for example, 4,600. You go to the Rivian R1T or the R1S, they're at 7,100 pounds. Your load factor is 5.
Yes, sir.
And then, not to just take over the panel, but let's go in the remarketing side of EVs. I don't know if you guys have tried to pick up some EVs that have been sitting at a storage location for a while, but that is not a fun operation. They sit, they die, you're running all over the place. The auction is not equipped to charge those vehicles for you to get it back out of the other side. So this deal, from the OEM perspective, into locations going into the first point of sale, they've got that pretty much figured out. When these cars start coming off a lease, and you're going to see exponential increase in the next 36 months of EVs coming off of leases, trying to get the wholesale outlets, I don't even want to be a part of that deal.
So I am positive.
An absolute nightmare.
Shane, thank you, because I'm positive the NAAA is happening right now. National Auto Auction Association trade show. And right now, there has got to be a remarketer or 2 or 10 that want to know more about what you're talking about. Where are the auctions when it comes to EV transportation and logistics?
They kind of look at you and hand you your gate pass.
Say that again.
They look at you and hand you your gate pass. So pretty much it's all you, Chief. Figure it out and get it on the truck and get it out of here.
Right. So what can be done? Is there room for an education piece from, say, an organization like AHA to bring to the NAAA? Right? Is there something there?
That would be a good idea. That would actually be a very good project, don't you think, Shane?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Mr. Larick. He's heavy on the remarketing side, probably bigger than any of us. And what's he seeing when it's coming to him?
Well, yeah, we are. We're seeing a problem with them not running. But what we're finding out is there's a lot of mixed loads. So we're throwing a couple cars in with it, but we have to watch our weight. We are losing all the automobiles that we're moving on that side of it.
And it's not just load factor, and it's not just getting them started because there must be, and I'm sure there's data about this, the longer it sits or where it sits, the temperature of where it sits for a certain amount of length of time. I don't know what all the factors are, but I'm sure there's plenty. And actually, we had Martin Romju from Bobbit Media join a live segment about a month or two ago, just talking about there was, let alone the safety, just the safety alone of maintaining EVs in an auction was pretty eye-opening.
To add to you, Jay, real quick, on the remarketing side, Now, when we inspect vehicles, we have to actually get underneath them, make sure there's no damage in the bottom. Because if we pick it up and there's a gouge, there's a good $15,000 now for the batteries. So it's another thing that we have to look out for, because even if they run.
Hey, I had to
Holy
consider
smokes.
that. Good point.
What about that? Good point.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of
You
times
have to pay for one. That's how I learned.
a lot of times
The hard way.
Yep.
Because the low to the ground, a lot of times we don't see it until you get it up on the truck.
This
Right.
much exactly. They lift and you always see is just a tiny this cuff. It's not even a gouge.
Right. There's not a lot of room. You get up there and you say, "Oh man, I missed it." And, you already got it out of the auction. So
Right, and you're talking about on the battery, right?
Correct. Oh, just the
Right.
bottom surface, just the bottom cover.
Which
The whole
is
bottom.
which is the whole bottom, exactly. And it can be a very minor, what looks like otherwise a minor situation. That could be a puncture of a battery or something, right?
Holy mackerel! That's got to
Right.
slow your whole process down. I mean, not that it's a quick process in an or picking it up out from an auction in the first place, but holy smokes!
Who inspects for that? I mean, how?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
hard.
you gotta get one of those border patrol, I guess, mirror that sticks under the car.
Yeah, but I mean, it
This
only
is
goes
where-
so much.
Hey, some of the next level AI scanning technology is going to come in handy.
Yeah.
So, right? That thing's going to catch that stuff.
Need to have a little
Anaheim
camera.
does that.
it'll catch her for the auction, but it's not going to catch her for us.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
this is why their technology should interact with transportation and logistics more. It's not just,
No, they won't do that. They
you
won't
don't
do
think?
that. Come on.
Well,
They won't
alright.
do that anymore. The railroad
Fine.
doesn't do it today because the last person holding the bag gets to win the prize that's inside. So, and you all know what's in the side of the bag. So that's how that won't happen. We have, as an industry, we have to fund our way towards that solution. So, finding some sort of AI solution sounds fantastic, but you better make it cost effective because otherwise it ain't getting anywhere. That's the key.
Well, I will say, this is where, so like Black Widow, they're at NAAA right now talking about their next level camera technology and scanning technology. UVI is another one where it's like an MRI for a car. They're putting it at the plant, at the dealership, not everywhere, but it's newer. And then there's other mobile app technologies, which is mobile app technologies is another thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, are there too many mobile apps? This came up last week. Does anybody have anything to add about mobile apps and technologies that won't keep us here another hour?
That's it.
I
Definitely
said my
not
piece.
some more.
You said it last week, did you?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go tune into the show.
No,
Like
we're here now. So, Rod, you said we don't need more. Is that what you said?
We don't need more. I mean, the
don't
drivers are like, they're losing it. They're like, what apps am I using? For what clients? For what broker? For what OEM? It's just getting a little too much. I mean, it's there to protect us, which is great. But, I mean, we're talking on average, I think, minimum of 5 or 6.
Yeah, but that was brought up like 5 years ago. Real time. Everybody wants real time, real time. I'll tell you, there's a lot of work to be real time.
It is a lot of work. I mean,
And
it's
it
a
really
lot of work.
isn't. Yep.
Well,
but
and
it
that-
really isn't.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
I think the summary from last week was, does the shipper need to be able to see a GPS pinpoint as it crosses the country? Or are there just periodic updates, either from the logistics team or a technology or something like that? But again, that's a different issue than the mobile app itself, the driver mobile app. I don't know. And then we got here because we're
Yeah, as
talking
long
about...
as as long as we're transparent with the customers don't really ask us for it because we provide them that through our TMSs. Hey, this vehicle is going to be there on a specific day.
This is where I think Joe pointed out new versus used, right? Primary
Exactly.
versus secondary market is a big difference when it comes to what kind of updates you need to give to whom.
Correct.
I never thought you needed it with new because they know when it gets set up for, Joe's company knows when it gets put on the truck, and once it's put on the truck, it's delivered right away.
That's
Like
it.
they said, it's the used cars. You know, when they're picking them up in the auction and stuff. Yeah, these guys don't know where their cars are. We understand that, so
Right.
they just got to pick the companies, and they won't have a problem.
And see, here's the funny thing. When I set up that show topic, I really meant used, but, you know, Joe works in new and had a lot to say. So, yeah, this is a problem in used, but it remains to be a problem. I think there are still many shippers in the secondary market that are unhappy with, where's my car? Right? Why can't I know?
It's usually on the small dealer side. Big franchise dealers don't really care as much. I think it's the small dealers or small wholesalers that really care about those details.
I've yet to have a driver call, or I've yet to have an OEM call me and say, why is your truck parked next to the Taco Bell on Highway 53? Well, he ate at the highway. He ate at the Taco Bell on Highway 53, and he hasn't left yet.
Or Burger King.
I've never had that happen.
Right, exactly.
All right, never has this happened.
That's fair. All right, moving along, because we're doing great. This is really, we've already been here 45 minutes, I think. Actually, the panel's been here 30. And so, actually, before I move on to my next topic, let me ask you this. It's in a month, right? What's in a month? Aha. All right, cool. So this is when you're about 30 days away. You pretty much know what you're going to do, and you're connecting with friends and talking about, Tell me more. What's happening in 30 days, and why?
I got something on this.
Okay,
just this morning, I was reading that FMCSA is now looking at speed limit legislation,
Right.
where they would force a 68-mile-an-hour speed limit. And what FMCSA typically does is they say this is what we're looking at, and then they allow for a period of people to come back with whatever their responses are, and then they take all of those responses and read them very, very carefully and ignore everything that was said and just do what they want anyway. So, in essence, FMCSA has telegraphed that within the next 12 to 18 months, they're going to force a 68-mile-an-hour speed limit on all commercial vehicles above, I think it's 20,000 pounds, which is all of us. So I think this is going to be a problem. And I think that this is another thing that will drive people away from the overall trucking industry, but certainly also car hauling. Certainly there are some places when you don't need more than 68 miles an hour. But when you run where I run, when you're talking about places like Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, where you're not going from city to city to city, you're going from town to town to town. That's a big problem, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the feedback comes.
Well, what's it going to do to metropolitan areas, even off-peak times? Now you've got these slow down a good 7 to 10 miles an hour, slow down in everyone's way. I think there's a traffic issue, and I understand safety concerns. And then that also goes to available hours of service. You're going to have some kind of a rate increase to keep drivers involved, because if you're losing 4 miles an hour a day for 11 hours, 44 miles, doesn't sound like a big deal. That might be
It
That's a big deal.
Delivery.
Shane, you're right. You're exactly right.
You're on point.
Shane, you're exactly right what you're saying, but I don't think that it's a miles issue. I don't think it's an hours issue. I don't think it's a production issue. I think that people are going to say to hell with this crap and leave the industry and just go build widgets or weld wagons or whatever. They'll just freaking leave. I think it's going to make people leave the trucking industry on the whole.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, like Shane said, too. It's more of a safety thing. When we slow down, wherever we at, it's gonna be a gridlock in the big cities. I mean, we're already going slow enough, but leading up to those cities, we can build up traffic.
It sounds like you're also saying this is already happening. It's not like it's being discussed. Is this being implemented?
Well, look at it this way. How many times is a person in a 45 mile an hour getting ticketed for going 70? The answer is not a lot. It usually, if someone's getting ticketed in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, it's not going to be by that rate of speed. It'll be something far less than that, something more intuitive to what you would expect. Additionally, how many people are going through that zone and don't get ticketed because they're not breaking the law? The upper speed limit doesn't matter as long as they're not breaking the law at the limit that's less than whatever the number is. So, that's I think that's kind of the gist of the argument there. I do think there is a safety concern, no doubt. Everything these guys said, I agree with. I don't know. Just to me, I think it's going to be a detractor to the industry.
Is the evidence there to do this? Because it does seem like, I don't drive a truck, and I can see why. This is why people are frustrated with truck drivers, right? Moving side by side.
Yep.
Well, that's because they're governed out, right? They no longer and what at some point, like, screw it, everybody. I can't go faster than 68. I don't care anymore. Is that happening? I'm assuming that's the conversation happening inside of trucks across America. Screw it. I don't care. I'm just driving.
Right.
It's your dumb law. Am I wrong? I don't know. I'm not wrong. Okay. No, that's when I usually okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, one comment. If you were to take all of the the highway safety records from when FMCSA instituted ELD and compare them to a similar time period prior to when they instituted ELD, every safety KPI went the wrong direction.
Right.
Every one of them. More crashes, more every one of them. So at this point, I think they're just grabbing at straws.
From AB5 to ELD to speed limiters to undercarriage guards, it always seems to go the wrong way.
Wrong way.
Wow.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for real uplifting. Okay, so in fact, speaking of, okay, here, I do want to ask. It's my final topic. Asset light carriers in the OEM negotiation business. Anything to add? Here's why I say that. I know it's dangerous ground, but it would seem that this is a really tough, it's tough to say something, but it's that, right? If you have the equipment and you have the expenses and you have the drivers, then you know your cost. But if you don't have all those things and you're able to get the contract and then find out after the fact there was a reason why the asset-heavy guy had the higher price, what is that doing to market conditions, contracts, loads, drivers, the marketplace? Or am I wrong?
No.
What happens there, though? And Tom, I don't mean to step on you.
No, go ahead. Go.
Market's self-adjusting. So you can come in and you can say whatever you want about being asset light. And you can sell the story that you're going to do it at this price. Once you can't get, somebody got to own a truck. And once you can't get a truck in there to move that iron, that sits, the market will self-correct. So I don't think there's a real fear of asset light doing any damage. There's spots for asset light in our industry. I come from, there's a spot for asset light. But that spot is a quick response to a short-term problem where you can take assets in that area, match up the pricing to you, and get the job done. I don't see asset light being a threat to a traditional car haul company in the future at all.
But they are, Shane. But they are. There are asset-light companies that hold long-term contracts from customers that you know the name of, and they have, and they broker 90% of the traffic. Happens every day. Happens every day. I think in a certain sense, what Shane says is true. I think the market is self-correcting. I think that it just takes a long time. I think that market pullbacks are what tell you all you need to know about the overall strength of a business plan of a particular business case. Unfortunately, none of us want a market pullback. That's not a good thing. But that's when I think you're going to see what happens to the asset lights. The nature will take its course, as one of my favorite people likes to say, and Shane knows who I'm talking about. So I think that really the market depends, what happens in the market is what we're going to see going forward. If the market continues to be extremely robust, where the capacity is above and beyond what the fleeted carriers are able to book and maneuver around, then I think you're going to continue to see asset light companies gain access to certain things. However, when that doesn't happen anymore, and when the market goes in a very, very different direction, I think there will be an interesting change, and I look forward to seeing how that works out for some.
Nature will take its course. It's on the back of the business card.
Yep. He's right. He's right. And and Shane is as well. I mean, it is going to be self-correcting from the standpoint that if they continue to grow their footprint, it's going to provide a disincentive to asset-based carriers. Who's going to invest $450,000 in a 9-car rig to have it being taken by some guy who, he has a phone call and he might know a guy with a truck. The problem that I see is that the correction time is going to take too long. I do think it's going to self-correct, Shane, and then Joe, I agree with you. Nature's going to take its course, but I sure would like to see it move a little quicker because, in the meantime, we all have assets that we need to feed.
Well, there's going to be, I think what you're saying, the capital investment side of this business, I don't care who you are or where you are. If no one is sitting there with a suitcase full of cash that says, give me the green one and the orange one and the blue one over there. That's not how that works in car hauling. And so, in order for you to be able to perform those financial gymnastics, you have to put together an ROI. You have to provide all kinds of paperwork. Relationships. How many times? Every time I'm on this cast, I say something about how relationships matter in this industry. The relationships that you have with the funding people and the relationships you have with your banks and with the people who are reviewing your financials, because they do review your financials. Yeah. These people are investing tens of millions of dollars in your ability to be able to keep up with your monthly payments. They are going to ask you what your financials look like from time to time, and they're probably not, they may sound obnoxious, but it's the right thing to do. So, without some sort of business case to be able to establish that I have this revenue coming in, therefore I can justify the cost of this capital investment, without the other is not a long-term success story for anybody. Someone is going to get hurt. And, Tom, to your point, I think I really agree. I wish it would be a little quicker to see those kinds of things happen. Unfortunately, we've seen bad actors in the industry survive for a lot longer than anyone ever could have possibly expected over the years, and you see how that shakes out, and, who knows? Who knows?
I agree.
Maybe that's why it takes so long, I guess. I don't know.
Bonus question. Load boards. Anything to say?
I think they have a value. I mean,
they definitely do. They do.
We use them to fill in empty miles. Simple as that. We have surges and droughts in our network like everybody else, and in order to cover one direction or the other, if there's something on there that helps, then it's a simple business case.
Correct. I mean, we mainly use it just to kind of keep our network. Increase our network as far as, because most of the dealers now find that load boards as they're purchasing vehicles from the big auctions. They get the link direct to the load boards. So we keep an eye on it just so we can increase our remarketing side. And like Joe said, it's a backhaul or deadhead miles.
Means to an end.
Well, that was easy. All right. So first, I do want to say this. Shane, it was great having you on. Shane, is this the first show? Is this your first show? Yeah.
I'm surprised I was invited.
Oh, stop.
Oh, come on.
Don't
say that.
Here. Yeah. We're glad you could join us. We'll look forward to seeing you. That's the way this works. It's kind of like it's one of them lifeboats. We pull you in the lifeboat, and now you're stuck here. So, thanks for joining the lifeboat. Appreciate it. And I want to know, so here's the next installment. This is kind of how we end the show. We talk about what could be done next. Dare I say OEM Car Haulers Part 3, starts to sound like a horror story, but it's not. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to catch up again after AHA. I'd like to see this panel have a influence discussion on something at AHA, and another piece of candy breaks loose out of the piñata, and there's an idea for another show. Right?
Sounds like a plan.
It sounds like a plan. Okay, good. I really, in whatever form that is, and what I really tried to do tonight was get everything going, get it started up, and then let you guys take over, because you're who we want to hear from. I promise that the live chat and viewers on demand would rather hear what it is that you have to say, and there's more to come. So please let me know in a couple months what we could do before the end of the year as another show, and who we can add into the lifeboat. Yeah, I'll wear a vest. If you can put a show together, I'll wear a vest.
Before we get out here tonight, but I was listening to all the information. It was unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of info tonight.
Well, I tried to shorten the beginning segment a lot more. I handed over to the panel earlier, so that's the new format.
Worked out good.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I don't want to keep y'all any longer. Thank you so much.
Joe, I think Shane's got his final.
Oh, I couldn't hear. Thank you.
Real quick, both to John and to Rod, thank you. You guys have offered some support at some of our operating locations, and it's much appreciated. Joe, you and I know where we're at, and Tom, it's always good to see you, old friend. Always.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pleasure.
You too.
Like you said, networking is really good, and I think if we keep this up, we're gonna have a strong team. And that's what's important.
Absolutely.
Say hey to Jonathan for me, John.
Oh, I will.
And do me a favor. I won't be at AHA, but when you're at the bar late that night, pour a little shot for me. That's the Jay's shot. Is sitting right there.
There you
Don't
go.
touch it. He'll be here next year. All right.
Come with us on this live boat.
Yeah, well,
there you go.
Well, we'll help each other. It just takes time.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, thanks so much, you all. I really appreciate it. Joe, John, Rod, Shane, Tom, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
And there's the meeting, and that's a cut. Okay, back to camera one. I do want to say this, that wrong. There we go. Jump in the live chat. For those of you that I missed, I really wanted to focus on the panel. I had some notes, and then I made some notes, and I keep this stuff. And then when I go and do the podcast, I'm looking at notes, try to figure out what I want to make a YouTube short out of. So I didn't get a chance to say hello to everybody in the live chat. Thank you so much for jumping in, Daryl, and let's see. Oh, and Sky was in here earlier too, and Carlos and Devin. And so I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in and saying hello. Different format here. Things keep changing on ATI, but this will be the constant. The channel will always be here. It just may continue to look different over time. That's not a problem. That's how business is. And some of these news stories, like I'll read news today. I literally read today the article about I think it was a former Tesla exec now looking at launching a wholesale technology for the trade, buy, and sell of used EVs. It's just going to keep on. I mean, it's going to keep on changing. And do me a favor. Don't forget. Try to use social media before the end of the month. We're almost there. Try to make a post on social media that you don't normally do. Whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And if you need help or ideas, send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. It's a great way to let others know what you're up to. And it is another way to kind of reinvigorate what your core marketing message is. What are your main services? And I'll say this too, is that I'm seeing a lot of podcasts come and a lot of podcasts go, because if that's not your core business, it's not going to last. What's your core business? Focus on that, tell others about it, and then see if you can hook your train onto other trains a rolling and network and grow your business. That's what the trade shows are really all about. So thanks everybody so much. I'm going to run the car hauler. I'm going to end the show. Thank you, Transport Auto Quoter, Auto Hauler Exchange, and Super Dispatch, Murphy Auto Transport Services. Be sure to join us on Thursday for Dispatching Live. We have an amazing guest talking about don't start your own brokerage and why. If you're looking at freight broker training, maybe think again. Here comes the car hauler. See you soon. Thanks.